and we want the fans out of their seat. We want to score goals. We want to get them, momentum on our side, and then on the flip side is when we don't have the ball, is it you got to be dogs.
He swaps it over to two wide players, they link in. Brady was still out what he is as a young goalkeeper. You think if he stands and covers it, but Burrington gets his goal.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Afterburn Soccer Show. I am your host, Nathan Hill. Right now flying solo as we're waiting for Colin and maybe Jose to sneak in here in just a few minutes as we get the show going. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Afterburn Soccer Show. Whether you're listening to our podcast version, found wherever you find podcasts, we hope you're subscribing to that on the days you can't go live with us, or you're watching on YouTube and you're able to punch in some questions and comments in the chat section. We'd love just to hear your voice, hear your reactions to what was a pretty dismal weekend for FC Dallas and North Texas Soccer Club. Of course, FC Dallas loses at home as Chicago Fire are able to come from behind, score 3 goals, and a mess of a final 10-15 minutes for FC Dallas. Just a nightmare scenario for head coach Eric Quill and really that team. And then North Texas Soccer Club kicked off their MLS Next Pro action at home at Choctaw, starting to try to defend that title run from last year, and unfortunately, they couldn't manage to come back from a 3-0 first half deficit as St. Louis City 2 took care easily of the young team from North Texas. So we got 2 dismal results. The weather was poor in Frisco as well. Maybe that added to people's moods. Oh, and here comes Jose. Here he comes, our buddy Jose Carmona at El Chico Carmona. And of course, you can follow Afterburn Soccer at Afterburn Soccer on X. Well, I was just giving a recap. We've already got a comment here from your brother-in-law there. That he's
yes, he watched the match with me. He was stunned, not as stunned as I was, but he was stunned at the ending.
Yeah, a disappointing weekend for both clubs. Not the home openers you wanted from either club. I think Collins will join us here in a few moments. But yeah, let's just start with just that overall reaction. I mean, you said you were stunned at the FC Dallas game. Logan Farrington, we saw his highlight there in the 56th, 57th minute, scoring a goal that just comes from hard work and a great assist from Anderson Julio, which is able to muscle it in a game that was really, neither team was really getting things going. And it seemed like FC Dallas were going to lock it down. We're going to really lock down that result. And then in that final 10, 12 minutes, it just all came apart for FC Dallas. The Chicago Fire coach Greg Berhalter, an experienced coach now, found the right moves to just take advantage. And Dallas really, had a PK late that would have at least closed the gap, but it was a mess. Yeah. How did you feel when that final whistle blew?
Well, completely different mood than last week, right? I think I am surprised at the team lost, but also not surprised. I mean, we've said it all along that the defense is just bad. I mean, it's just shocking that this team is going to have to score at least 3 goals a game just to even get a result of any kind. This defense, it's not that the defense is horrible. It's just that there's no depth. There's no depth. I mean, who do you bring in once any of your defensive starters are tired? Who do you bring in? There's no depth to bring in. At least nobody that Quill seems to have confidence in. Um, and let's face it, everyone's rightfully so saying how the Delgado uh, substitution changed the game, and and it's not just Delgado. Delgado had a part to do it in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mainly being played out of position. That was a surprise that they brought him in to replace Farrington of all people, and that was just a head scratcher to begin with. But he also never really got into the game and was basically showing flashes of Siki last year. At the beginning of the year, where Siki was turning the ball over in bad positions. This is what Delgado that we got this match. Um, yep, totally imploded is correct. And basically that's going to be a problem if there's no defensive reserves that can come in and help the team stabilize the defense. Because I was hoping there was a second goal coming. I mean, we needed that second goal to basically kill Chicago's. Uh, yes, Marcin. Not incorrect, but I'm just saying there's just no defensive reserves at the moment. We're missing Show big time. I mean, I Show is not a defensive stopper by any means, but he was a solid contributor when he was on, and you would think that he'd be a good reserve to bring in late in the game. Um, but other than that, I mean, we really need this U22 signing kid to be offer something
Yeah.
on the defensive side, because honestly, our defensive substitutions are non-existent right now, and we have to get used to this team struggling close out matches if every time Ramiro comes off or anybody else on the back line comes off, there's a huge drop off. Once they get off the field, it's just. I mean, it's don't get me wrong. We expected this. It was just we expected this, and we have to brace for this kind of season where we're going to have games where, holy crap, we scored 3-4 goals in one, and there's going to be ones where we're like, man, we should have scored 3-4 goals and we lost.
We welcome Colin in to the show. Yeah, that daylight savings time is kicking us right a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, we're here. We're just talking about this loss, this home opener loss for FC Dallas. Just that final 10 minutes, a gut punch. Colin, what when the final whistle blew, what were you feeling? What were you thinking?
I was thinking, why did we change what we were doing? Um, I mean, again, hindsight's 2020. You can make all these excuses for Quill and what he said in the post match conference. I mean, if you're a fan, go watch it and still post on YouTube on FC Dallas's YouTube page.
We'll watch a little bit of it maybe together. But yeah,
Perfect. And I'm sure the clip will show like even Quill said, like, it's my fault. Um, the sub to bring on Delgado, even in the stadium, I was sitting next to Austin and Sam, and I said to them, I was like, this is a weird change. Like,
Agreed.
why Delgado? When you have, like, I understand switching to a 4-4-2, maybe putting him out wide or more underneath, or like a 4-2-2 with like Lucho and him playing centrally, and then like for like service, kind of like how we did with our dual tens for the 3-back last year, where they play outside but also in underneath. If you're putting Delgado in that role, why not put Pedrinho, who scored a goal last week and is in form? Why not try and
Agreed.
get someone who's like Kumungo, who, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Kumungo, but Kumungo is going to give you effort and at least be a dog to fight for the ball. Um, if you're wanting to go with a more defensive approach while still being attacking, I don't understand why you go Delgado in that situation. Again, I'm not the coach, so maybe there's something there that he sees Delgado in training. Delgado was amazing last year. Not trying to dog him or make him look bad or anything either. He's a great player, and he showed it last year, but he's definitely not looking good this season so far based on that performance. But for me, it's like you look at it, and yeah, we had a few chances we were giving up, but it really wasn't the moment when Delgado got subbed that the game started going away. It was those 10 minutes after, because the first 10 minutes it was still working and doing well. But shortly after, whenever we were getting complacent, that is when they started going down the wing and getting crosses with Gutman and with Bamba and with Gutierrez and with Glasgow. Like they had all of these players just bombing down the wing and just abusing us. So it's basically just what I'm looking at here is you have a player like Nolan Norris on the bench who, again, I'm a huge fan of, who can play left back, who can play center back, who can play DM. You know, you got Ramiro, who's not, who presumably wasn't 90-minute match fit, and he went 90 minutes, but he looked gassed. You have Leggett, who looked invisible in the second half almost. Why not take one of them off for Nolan to solidify that defense a little bit? But, Nolan's also going to push forward and fight. I don't know what went through Quill's head. I think this is like the first big mistake we have seen from Quill so far. And to be honest, on paper, it looked to be an all right change. But it ended up shooting us in the foot a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, let's jump over to it. We can't watch all of it. I mean, it's just too a bit heavy. But yeah, Quill came out in the post game media and just the conference and just really, owned the mistake. And I have a lot of thoughts. I'm still putting my thoughts together on it for a guy making his third game in charge in Major League Soccer. Like, part of me is like, hey, give yourself a little grace there, buddy. Like, you made a mistake, but you're gonna have to take some lumps this season. You're gonna either adjust, and that's how I think MLS coaches, we know when they're good or not is when they can learn that, hey, this league has some unique differences. This league will punish you in certain circumstances where other leagues may not. And you got to take those lumps. But for his credit, he was passionate. He was disappointed. I think he was hyped for this home opener, and so very, very let down that they weren't able to deliver what the fans wanted. So let's just hear a little bit of it. I'll try to find a place to pull back.
I'd first like to apologize to our fan base. They didn't deserve what happened tonight, and this is my responsibility. I've been tasked with leading this club on a mission, and as coaches, how we can impact the game is with our decisions, and This game was on the turn of events was on me. The game was in control, and I can be better. I can be better in my decisions, and I'll leave it at that. But I just want these fans to know how much I appreciate coming out a night like tonight. Weather, cold, rainy, they were there. You feel their energy, feel their passion, and all I can hope is that they'll continue to support us and be here next week, because I promise you this won't happen again. This is a committed group. This is a game that we should have won. For 70-something minutes, it was in complete control, and it turned, and it's on me. So I'll learn. It's early in the season. We've got a lot of soccer left to play, but this is a warning shot, and this can't happen in front of our home crowd. So I can promise that these things, this will not. You won't see this again.
You can promise we won't see this again, which is a big commitment. It's a big commitment when there's going to be plenty of scenarios where the bench is thin. You're going to have to figure out who to turn to, and really that's why I think there's a spread of blame to go around. Of course, even in the game, the opening goal, the goal that Chicago tied things up, Shaq Moore just, I don't know, getting caught sleeping, just not following the runner. If he was a step forward, maybe he's able to disrupt even that, and we're able to survive a little bit longer. So I think I appreciate Quill taking it on himself for this, and my thought too is why the Delgado move, and I think it was that if anything else, that Logan Farrington, he had just scored. Chicago's left back Gutman, Andrew Gutman was having to watch Logan because he knew Logan could do that again. He could make that run again. You bring in Delgado, maybe you flip the guy, whatever, but all of a sudden Delgado, maybe Chicago's like, they were already pushing, of course, but they're like, we're not really scared of this guy. We don't see him as a big threat. He's more of a possession-based guy. He's not going to run past us. So that allows us to cheat forward a little bit more, and allows us to push those outside backs forward more. So it was maybe the wrong chess move, but such these are learning moments. But then again, maybe if Moore just tracks Chicago's left back, maybe he disrupts that goal, and maybe the game continues, and we're not in sort of chaos mode. So it's a lot to unpack from this one, and a lot of things, including the need for a defensive midfielder and some bench depth that can really maybe help solve this problem going forward. But that also, here's my thought for you guys too. Still not sure we've seen the best from Lucho Acosta yet, and I think he wasn't super effective in this game. I think he struggled a bit. Do you think, guys, that this game would have been more wide open if he had been able to really get going a little bit better? Was that conditions? What was that? Jose, what do you think?
I mean, it'll come with time. I mean, he's still only his third week with the team. It doesn't happen overnight. And let's face it. I mean, we're offsides and a missed PK away from a 3-3 draw. This team had opportunities. They just couldn't finish them. I mean, it was for a while there. It was an offsides battle going on between both teams. So it's just timing. The offsides are coming because the teams. Yes, we have excellent attackers, but they're not all on the same page yet, and there's no way to tell at what point that'll happen. At what point they'll all start clicking, and it certainly won't happen until we figure out who's going to win that battle between Farrington, Camungo, and Pedrinho. And I mean, frankly, after this game, I would say that Pedrinho and Farrington should be the two guys that should be battling to for that time right now, because Camungo hasn't really shown anything. He hasn't stood out like they both have stood out when they have played. He has looked, frankly, a lot like he looked last year, and that could just take time. But for whatever reason, he's not in the form that those two are. And once we figure out who the starter is there, or settle on a two-player rotation, then the attack can get on the same page, and we'll start seeing the team control get matches through their attack.
Colin, your thoughts? I mean, maybe my question is like, is Quill being a little hard at himself, or maybe this is the right play to motivate this team?
I mean, I think Quill 100% needs to take some responsibility, but I think me and Quill are very like I would do the same thing in that situation. Like if I looked at that match from a coaching perspective and I made that decision as a coach to make that tactical change, to make that sub and that change is eventually what caused my team to lose from a not necessarily controlling position all game of the scoreline, but a controlling sense of the game for most of the game. And we not only draw or drop points at home, but we lose in an impressive fashion 3-1 in the span of 10 minutes. Like, again, props to Chicago and Greg Berhalter. I mean, He got hated on a lot from men's national team, but you got to think he's only getting those players for a complicated system a couple weeks out of the year to make that solidified. Now he's getting the Chicago team, who's already got good defensive pieces and good attacking pieces. I think Chicago, I had them predicted as like one of my sneaky playoff teams. Not going to be in that. They're not going to be in that play-in game, but they're going to be like a 6 seed. So Chicago, in my opinion, is not a terrible team. They're not great, but they're not terrible. But again, this should be a team where we should win, and Quill knows that. I think everybody on paper knows that. I think everyone who watches MLS knows that. Lucho being part of like, I wouldn't say Lucho, we're getting the best out of Lucho yet. I mean, this is the man that I was averaging, I think, a 72% pass completion percentage for most of his time with Cincinnati. And I think his highest was yesterday's game for us at 69%. This is a man that also was getting multiple shots on target a game. Last night he had 2 blocked shots. The movement is coming for sure. You're seeing the link-up play to be more than just him and Musa like it was in Houston and in Colorado. You're seeing like Leggett giving 1-2s. Farfan coming up on the left out of a defensive position, which is not normal, giving 1-2s. I think Lucho is one of those players where like it's going to come. It's going to take time. He's an amazing player, but he needs players around him to also take some of the pressure off him. Because if we don't have good attacking pieces like a Musa or a Julio or a Pedrinho or a Farrington who are consistently good and striking fear into that defense, he's going to get double and triple teamed, and he can't do what he does best, which is give and goes and being able to bob and weave through defenders. So I think, again, kind of going back to the original question, I think Quill was just a little bit too hard on himself, but at the same time, you don't ever see a coach usually go out there in front of the fans on a home opener, first game at home, and be like, yeah, it's all on me. For that, I applaud him for being able to take that right to the chest and take it on the chin and move on. But also, I think not all of it's on him. A lot of it is on the midfield and the defensive back line for getting caught sleeping. And I think it's just a mixture of both, and it was just unfortunate for FC Dallas on the day.
Well, let's. I think we covered it there. I mean, it's a wait and it's a progress. What am I trying to? It's a work in progress. There we go. It's a wait and see. Maybe I was trying to mix my metaphors there, or whatever my phrase is. But yeah, I mean, getting this new defensive midfielder who seems like a really great prospect, a kid who I think led the U19s of Gremio to a championship last season. So really nice talent, and of course it's hard. It's tough to expect a 19-year-old to come in right away. So, but even if he just provides some support off the bench, and then maybe Show will get healthier soon and become an option to I think Show would have been a real help in a game like that, a real slog of a game where you need some guy to clog things up. So, a learning opportunity for FC Dallas, and of course this coming weekend they're going to be playing and welcoming back at home Vancouver Whitecaps, the undefeated Vancouver.
Undefeated.
Right. So let's come back to that in a minute. So we can talk a little bit, but let's jump now to also another home opener, which was last night at Choctaw Stadium as North Texas Soccer Club welcomed St. Louis City 2. It was a rematch of last year's MLS Next Pro Cup Championship, a game I think both teams had sort of penciled in, but a match that, of course, did not go North Texas's way by an own goal in the second minute, and then 2 more goals coughed up in the first half. Though North Texas did have some opportunities, they got into some dangerous positions. You could see some of the pieces there were trying to figure out how they were going to come together, but ultimately, just a disappointing result for head coach Sean Gall and his team. 8 players made debuts in this one, including Caleb Swan, who I posted his interview today, including a whole host of guys. Sam Sarver, who looks like an interesting guy, college guy coming on the wing. The kid from Argentina that they brought in. So some interesting talent out there. Just it looked like this was a team with like a bunch of players making debuts, a bunch of young guys, including some first team guys, just trying to get cohesive and figure each other out. And it just didn't quite look there yet. And so St. Louis, I think, were quite confident. They just looked at times, too, like St. Louis looked like men against boys in that one. A lot of 50-50 balls that they just won and they just took over. So a lot to learn from the game. John Gall was not so devastated after the match. He was reflective, but he said, hey, it's better to take your lumps now than to take them further on in the season. I don't know if either of you got to watch that match or got to see some highlights or anything. If anything stood out to you about this new look North Texas under head coach John Gall. Jose, anything?
Yeah, I watched the match. Frankly, if you look at all three goals that St. Louis scored, they all came off of mistakes by North Texas. The own goal in the first opening minutes is just not the way to start off the game for a young team trying to gel. And then I'm fairly sure the other two, if I remember correctly, came off of North Texas turnovers, where St. Louis was able to capitalize. North Texas actually played very well. The difference here is St. Louis 2 is a really good team, has a lot of players coming back from last year, and is the opposite of North Texas, where North Texas did the right thing, saying, hey, we won a title, we need to move on. A lot of our players from that team have gone on to bigger, better things, and this is a new group. St. Louis, the opposite. We may have had 8 debuting players. They had 8 returning players. So it's just a team that already knows the system, already knows. We didn't talk about it last week, but I was expecting a very, very tough opening match. I would not have been shocked with a loss. I'm shocked with the manner of the loss, but it's right now nothing to panic about. Like I said, St. Louis is going to be one of the teams that will be pushing for the top spot in the conference. And like I said, a veteran returning team at this level. They're not like FC Dallas where you get X amount of time to show improvement, and if you show improvement, you get moved on. You don't stick around. St. Louis is the opposite. These players are returning from last year, and you saw the difference. You saw a veteran team capitalizing on mistakes by a young squad.
Colin, any thoughts you want to add?
I mean, this is a team with North Texas where you literally have, I think it was 4 players coming back from last year in the starting 11. That being Garcia, Ramirez, Scott, and Collodi. On the bench, I think the only overlap would be Leo or Herrera, and I believe Kakush as well. He had some, I think, sub appearances maybe at most. I don't remember him starting much. North Texas isn't really my cup of tea. I've been to a couple games and I covered them quite a bit the second half of last season. But watching that team and then watching the game, it's day and night. Gall, of course, has to start this team similar to the last. You can see that he wants to do similar things, but it's different. The lineup graphic still showed that 3-4-3, but if you watched it, it was more of a 4-3-3 than anything. It looks to be more fluid in changing than last year. It seems to be more solidified defensively. At least he's trying to make it that way. So again, you got a new, similar with a built-in new system. You have, I think it's 7 new players in the starting 11. You have a bunch of turnover, and you're going against a St. Louis SC team, which I believe only 2 of those players last year did not start and play a majority of the games last year. There's really not much you can do. I didn't expect us to win last night. I expected maybe a draw at best, because every time we have a huge turnover in North Texas, what happens? It starts slow. About quarter way through the season, we start gelling and getting well together, and then we push for a late playoff run. Last year, we were blessed because a lot of the players that were on the team last year were part of the team the year before that or had decent professional experience. A lot of these kids are college draft picks or semi-pro or like high school academy kids going straight pro. They don't have the experience of this, and they're going against a St. Louis team that also has like an average age, like one of the highest average ages in the league, at like 24, 25, I want to say, which, everyone's like, oh, that's super young. For a development league, that's pretty old. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things. They're old and experienced. They've played together. I'm not too worried about North Texas SC, seeing how well they played. It wasn't great on paper. It wasn't great if you just watch the highlights, but if you watch the full game, you can definitely see the vision of what Gall's trying to do. You can see the individual technical ability of most of the players out there. I'm not too worried. Now, hit me back up in May and June. If it's the same thing, I'll start being a little bit more worried.
Yeah, my biggest fear for this team, just thinking about him and looking even at that point, and I know they're going to improve, but the fact that they did have to bring Tariq Scott in, who will probably be one of their best attackers if he doesn't get more minutes with the first team. I just feel like they are an attacking piece or two. They sure could use a little more competition up top. So that's something I'm going to be watching to see if they address that, or this may be who they roll with. But it seemed like they could have used some more offensive reinforcements in that second half to turn to and try to create something. And a lot of midfielders and defenders right now. So we'll see. We'll see how that develops.
I also want to add, like Colin was saying, St. Louis is one of the older teams. It just depends on which, on the builds. There's different builds in MLS Next Pro. You got your U25 builds, your U23 builds, and U21 builds. North Texas is a U21 type build, so it's like the Union. Some teams prefer to play the younger players, and despite the loss, I guarantee you that Dallas is happy that they got to play against a much older team, because these young players, that's what they need. They need to play against older, more mature, stronger, bigger players, so that they're ready to deal with that once they try to make the jump up to MLS. So yes, it's a loss, but it's a great learning experience for all those young players, and this team will turn around. Maybe not a championship team, but they'll definitely be one of the top teams in the Western Conference when it's all said and done. And it's not the way to start the season, but we saw things there. Honestly, my only real question for this team is who's going to be their lightning rod scorer. You had Pedrinho last year, and you had other options that could score. I don't know who their scorer is going to be this year. Who's that going to be, that guy that comes up with a key goal to stem the tide in a match like this? I'm curious to see who that guy is going to be. Tariq Scott may be a great attacker, but they were playing him on the wing, not up top. So I'm kind of curious to see what that's all about. A lot of questions. It's hopefully just a speed bump on the road to the playoffs.
Well, let's start to shift toward the end of the show here. And Marcos, it's good to see you. And yep, it's all coming down to this weekend, and to this Vancouver game, and what a chance to right the ship, to wipe away that result from last Saturday, to get some things right, to keep building that sense of teamwork, that cohesion for FC Dallas. And Vancouver is going to be without one of their key playmakers in Ryan Gauld. So a good opportunity perhaps to lock things down, to grab that gritty win even, and build off of that as the season continues to go forward. So let's do our predictions. Let's do our predictions for this Vancouver match. Colin, we're going to start with you. All right. Oh, I think you muted yourself.
I did.
There we go.
Thank you. So this is where we start getting a little bit bleak. Before our win in 2023 against Vancouver, we had not beaten them at home since 2016. Lots of draws and a few losses. Vancouver has in recent years, been our bogey team, but something that I look at is they have Champions League Tuesday. They are without not only Ryan Gauld, but they are without Emmanuel Sabi, who they've been without the whole year. Jaden Nelson, who looked to be their bright spot against Portland. And then really key piece of the defensive back line. I think it's Adekugbe. I just call him Sam A. Whenever I talk fantasy, because he's a huge fantasy guy. But Vancouver is depleted. Their defense is good. Takaoka is a very underrated keeper in this league. Um, I think it's one of those things where if we don't take advantage of this and win, it'll be something we look on later in the year as like, what the heck happened? Again, if we play like we did against Chicago, Colorado, and Houston, I think I can see us getting a result at home. And I'm gonna go. I don't want to say it's bold, but history says it's bold. How we played last week at home says it's bold, but I'm gonna go with a 2-1 win. And the reason I say 2-1 is Vancouver still has good quality in the midfield and in the attack, even without Gauld and Jaden Nelson, and their backline is just insane. Their wingbacks are scoring goals this season. Takaoka is a really good player. I think they're the only team in MLS where every outfield player is averaging like a 7.3 match rating that has started this season, except for like one player. That again, not usually a big stats or like match rating guy, but that says that they're a good team, and that's with them playing against Monterrey already once, and then coming out this past weekend against Montreal, losing 2 players to injury, and still getting the business done and getting a clean sheet at home. I see Vancouver being a tough team, but I see us scrapping out a 2-1 win at home.
Good. Jose?
Vancouver has been one of our bogey teams, of course, but I'm going to go bolder and I'm going to say 3-1. And I'll tell you why. Yes, Vancouver's undefeated. Yes, they're CCL and whatnot, but it's all smoke and mirrors. Their first win, Portland got a red card 11 minutes into that match. You win that match. I don't care who you are. If you're playing a team that's going to be, 80 plus minutes, 10 men. And then there are 2 other opponents. Dead last, Los Angeles Galaxy, who are horrible this year, 0-3, winless, and they have looked just like a shell. And their other opponent after that was Montreal, 0-3, dead last in the Eastern Conference. I mean, they've got Dante Seeley starting for them, for crying out loud. So that's Coop. Thanks. That's what I was going for. But yes, and frankly, it's 3-1, and I do expect Vancouver to be tough. But let's face it, they have to travel to Monterrey from Vancouver, play there, then travel to Dallas. I don't know how you can recover from that. That's a brutal trip from Vancouver to Monterrey. And then Monterrey will be tough. That's going to be a dogfight, regardless of the result. So you travel there, one of the longest trips in the country to make, and then travel to Dallas. Vancouver, I expect them to collapse in the second half, in all honesty. I expect them to play us tough, and it's going to be very important for this defense, the Dallas defense, not to give up any mistake goals and allow Vancouver to sit in a low block. It's get a goal, get them out of that low block, and then punish them in the second half when they're going to be leg weary. And Dallas should be able to finish stronger than they do. And if Dallas doesn't finish stronger than them, then we have a problem.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I mean, Kuv, I'm going with a 2-1. I don't think I don't trust our defense yet. Although I'd love a clean sheet, and maybe that's the focus this week. Is just a 1-0. But I think we're going to come out. This team's going to look different, and Quill's going to make some smarter decisions. I think we're going to find those goals. I think it's still going to be a scrappy game. And it's still a work in progress, but yeah, I think we got to get it done. And yeah, if not, then I think we start to go like, what is going on? Who is this team gonna be? But there's still time. It's way early in the season, and yeah, things could be worse. We could be 0-2 and three. We could be like the Galaxy and just be wallowing, or like Montreal, and we could still be starting Dante Sealy, which that was a nightmare no one wants to relive. Marco says so. Marcin said 2-0. And yeah, Marcos thinks our defense is going to step up, so 2-1. So, good
So
stuff.
only the Rapids fan predicts a clean sheet. Just throwing that out there.
We don't have prime Zach Steffen in goal like you do, buddy. All right, we have regressed Martin Paz and Ibiaga on the back line.
Well, let's leave it there. Jose, Colin, thanks for joining us tonight. Everybody else, Marcos, Marcin, thanks for joining us, for listening in. Of course, if you're listening to this later on the podcast, thank you for subscribing, for liking it. Please share however you can. And of course, later this week, I'll do a little bit of editing, but I'm going to have that conversation I had with Caleb Swan, one of the new kind of FC Dallas Academy products with North Texas. It's a fun kid to talk to who has big dreams and is excited to be part of this North Texas club. And I think we'll see some exciting stuff from him. All right. Good night, guys. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.